down to the donut shop here. And look, they got this picture up here. Look at the old town back in the day. Horse and buggy day. That is awesome.
These are banana.
How are things going in here?
They're going good. Oh, okay.
And there's the town.
This is cream cheese.
Cars. Back when the first cars first came out. That's awesome. In the storefront here, they got Dorothy and the Cowardly Lion. Toto. The Wicked Witch. And look, they got the Mumpkins in the window right there. They actually were here once.
No place like home. No place like home.
I like how they got things out front here, you know, around the road here. That's from the history of this place. So this is called a carriage rock right there. It says here is a carriage rock. This block is used as a stepping stone to get into and out of carriages. This side is facing the streets. It's inscribed with the name John C. Welch. The block originally stood in front of Welch's residence in the 500 block of West Main Street. One of the Welch descendants, Douglas R. Welch, later served as mayor of Ionia. Here. That's cool. A few minutes for the next activity is figure out explore the town a little bit here. Like the old church right here. I love old churches. The churches nowadays just don't have the character like these old ones do. And then there's their courthouse there. Right next door. Yeah, big old courthouse. Kind of reminds me of the one from Charlotte. This activity is going to be right there in the old movie theater right there. And Rob would like that. Look at that old movie theater, Rob. So they're actually showing, they're still an active movie theater. They're showing Toy Story 4 in there. And Secret Life of Pets. And they're going to be showing The Wizard of Oz in there. Look at this, up closer to that movie theater. So you still even got the old marquee up here. The old ticket booth, but unfortunately you buy your ticket actually inside. I don't use this anymore. Pretty cool. They save all this stuff. Right inside the theater here, and look, they got Dorothy, Sandy and Dorothy right there. That's the inside of the theater. And the old ticket booth. Awesome. The old doors up here. That old theater doors. It's awesome. The Ionia Theater. Look at this here. It's like a little wooden carved Ionia Theater. Oh, it's actually a thing you put like, you know, comments or something. That's cool. It's been in existence since 1931. Look at this. This thing is awesome. Theater here. Look at that. And you even still got the old curtain up there in front of the screen. That's awesome. They even got the old balcony seats up there. Look at that. Or it looks like balconies. So you see, they got a stage up here. They actually have shows here. I wonder what we're doing in this theater. Is what we're doing is they're going to have the myths and legends of the Wizard of Oz. So they're going to describe, explain the myths and all that about this famous movie.
I am a Royal Oz historian. Not the Royal Oz historian, that would be L. Frank Baum, but I'm doing the history of the movie. Talking a little bit about the truths or the myths of the Wizard of Oz, and there are plenty to talk about. Before we go to the movie, though, I am an author as well. My wife and I write Wizard of Oz books, and we'll talk a little bit about that at the end. But it all started with a book. Bear in mind that The Wizard of Oz started out as a simple child's tale of fantasy and adventure, written by Lyman Frank Baum. What a name, Lyman, that's why he went by L. Frank Baum. Published in 1900. We're looking at a 119-year-old book that is still relevant in today's society. For the first 39 years of the book's existence, there were 10 different movies that were actually made before The Wizard of Oz that we know of. All of them were silent films, most of them produced by L. Frank Baum himself and his own Wizard of Oz production company. But in 1938, negotiations began to buy the rights to The Wizard of Oz so that studios could film it. 20th Century Fox, which back then was just Fox Studios, went up against Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer in order to buy the rights. Eventually, MGM won out with a $75,000 bid. Now bear in mind, if Fox had gotten the movie, they wanted Shirley Temple as Dorothy. Shirley Temple there on the left, and of course our beloved Judy Garland on the right. It would have been an interesting choice, but the thing was, Shirley Temple didn't have the vocal range for the songs that they had planned on singing. Fortunately, they made the right choice, and I don't think anyone here will disagree. Now the movie started out and ended with 4 different directors. Now, when we watch the movie, we see Victor Fleming as the credited director, but it started out with a gentleman named Norman Taurog, who went on to Richard Thorpe, then on to Victor Fleming, and it ended with King Vidor. Norman Taurog started the early stuff. He was only on for about a week, basically waiting for Richard Thorpe to become available. He did all of the early test shots and the stuff that you need to do when you start producing a movie. This was an early test shot of Judy Garland in what they thought might be her dress. Red checkered gingham. I don't think it quite worked. Also the hair, as you can see. They were kind of going with this long flowing hair. The Tin Man, too, was not the Tin Man we know, Jack Haley. It was actually Buddy Ebsen. They brought him in as someone who could sing and dance, and they thought he had a good shot at it. Now, finally, Richard Thorpe comes on board as the primary director. And he went with Dorothy with the blue gingham dress that we all know. But he went with that hairstyle, kind of a blondish, reddish thing, with no pigtails. And here we see her in the early stages of filming. They started with the scarecrow scene. And as you can see, her hair is long, flowing. And what they discovered was, it got in her hair, it got everywhere. And so they turned it into pigtails, and they made it brown. And I think it was an excellent choice. But it just goes to show you how the evolution of movies work. You try something, you see if it works. And this one I don't think worked really well. It might have been interesting. But nonetheless, we stuck with Dorothy. And here's one of the very early shots when Buddy Ebsen was still the Tin Woodman. Or the Tin Man as we know him. From the books we call him the Tin Woodman. But here, we see Buddy at top. We see Bert Lahr, the Cowardly Lion. He was always the Cowardly Lion. And we see Ray Bolger. Now, Ray Bolger originally was cast as the Tin Woodman, and then they brought Buddy Ebsen in. Ray Bolger kind of liked it. There's only one problem. That is aluminum powder that they're covering his skin with. And let me tell you, that stuff is toxic. Now, we didn't know that back in the 1930s. They thought it would work. But Buddy had an extremely bad reaction, allergic enough that it nearly killed him, and he had to remove himself from the filming. And so, in doing so, they made a change. They went from aluminum powder to aluminum paste, and they brought in Jack Haley. Such a wonderful choice. You couldn't have asked for a better choice. And I think we all agree, he certainly makes a wonderful Tin Man. But again, he's wearing a paste now, which doesn't get into your pores, doesn't poison yourself, and it was well done. But don't worry for Buddy Ebsen, he went on to bigger and better things, at least from his point. Our favorite. We all love Toto. Toto is a cairn terrier. But oddly enough, Toto is a female. Toto wasn't actually a boy. And for a long time during the filming, you never really got a sense of what gender Toto was until Dorothy mentions that he's a he. And here's the funny thing. Toto got paid $125 a week to his handler in order to star in this movie. Whereas the Munchkins, they only got $75 a week. You'll notice there, right behind that gentleman in front, there on the right-hand side is a young Munchkin named Margaret Pellegrini. She's wearing a purple smock with a little flower pot, a wonderful lady who passed away a few years back. She used to tell the story that, she made less than Toto, but she would always end it by saying, "And where's Toto now?" "Well, he's pushing up daisies, and I'm still here." So, she outlived poor Toto, who passed away. Now, oddly enough, going back to Toto, during the filming, when they were doing the Winking Guard scene, one of the Winking Guards accidentally stepped onto Toto's foot, and in doing so, broke his foot. And Toto had to go recover, and he actually stayed with Judy Garland for about 2.5, 3 weeks in her place. And she absolutely fell in love with Toto, and had actually asked to adopt him when the filming was done, but Toto's handler wouldn't give him up. Now, Toto appeared in many other films. I actually saw Toto in a Three Stooges short from 1941, so Toto had a pretty good career. Now, here's our Wicked Witch. The only problem is, it's not the Wicked Witch we know. This was our first choice that Richard Thorpe brought in as director, Gail Sondergaard. The only problem is, she's quite attractive. And when it became apparent that they were going to make her an ugly witch, because after all, only evil witches are old and ugly. That's right. And let me tell you, she didn't want to do that. She felt that would hurt her career. She was a little wrong, wasn't she? Yeah, that's what you call really a career move. But nonetheless, we got Margaret Hamilton. And again, a magnificent choice. You couldn't ask for anything better. The only problem is, Margaret had equally bad problems with her makeup. That green makeup was copper-based and toxic. She couldn't, in fact, when she was in full makeup, she couldn't eat because of being afraid to ingest the copper makeup through the food she was eating when it would touch her lips. And so she had to go on a liquid diet during the entire filming. She also had a problem with fire. Now, Scarecrow didn't like fire, but it turns out Margaret Hamilton really didn't like fire. This was one of the early scenes where she's tossing the fireball at Scarecrow, and this worked out very, very well for her. But when she made her entrance into the Munchkin City, because of the way it worked, she was in a trapdoor that would lower her down very quickly as the flames rose up. The problem was the flames ignited or caused to burn her makeup. It's copper-based, and the burning temperature of copper was a little less than the melting point of copper was a little less than the temperature of the flames, and so it created third-degree burns all over her face and her hands. She had to go on hiatus and recover for 6 weeks, and she refused to ever do any other scenes that involved fire or smoke. It really had an effect on her. Unfortunately, this was one of the last scenes filmed, more or less, that involved that type of thing. The other interesting fact, when it comes to The Wizard of Oz, is that the movie was originally 2 hours long. And when they did some initial screenings of the movie, turns out The Wicked Witch was really frightening. Frightening so much that instead of 22 minutes of screen time, they cut it in half. And she only has 11 minutes of screen time because she was so frightening to children. It was absolutely amazing. Here's an odd fact. Glinda, and we all love Glinda. Who doesn't love a good witch? Glinda is 54 years old during the filming of this, while Margaret Hamilton is only 36. Yet it certainly doesn't look like it, does it? I guess that's what evil will do to you. It kind of ages you, doesn't it? Ah, yes, the Wicked Witch of the East. She's having a bad day here. A very bad day. Meinhard Raby, the coroner there, he was one of the very few Munchkins that were hired who actually did his own speaking. This was because the Munchkins, many of them were from Eastern Europe, and they couldn't speak English very well, and so they would dub in their voices into singing roles and all. But Meinhard Raby, the coroner, actually did his own singing, as well as Glinda. And in case you're wondering, the certificate of death, the Wicked Witch died on May 1938. That was when they were filming. And May 6th actually was the anniversary date of L. Frank Baum's death. He died on May 6th, 1919. And so it was a unique little tie-in, something you wouldn't normally notice because on screen you really don't see the date. Now, Meinhard Raby, the coroner, went on to an excellent career as the littlest chef on the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile. Not bad after being a coroner to go around riding on a hot dog. Many of the Munchkins actually went on to wonderful careers in Hollywood and working for other corporations, doing things very much like they're dancing, they're doing all sorts of things. But the only thing is, they cut out a number of songs because when the movie was premiered, and remember I mentioned they removed 22 minutes from the movie after screening it at audiences in 1939, from 2 hours down to about 90 minutes, 92 minutes or so. One of the scenes they took out was Ray Bolger singing this wonderful song and dancing with a pumpkin. It didn't really help further the movie, and they decided they really didn't need it, so they took it out. The Wicked Witch here, she says a little something, and you're going to notice this. When she sends the winged monkeys off to capture Dorothy in the dark forest, she says, "There'll be no trouble to you at all. I've sent a little insect along to take the fight out of them." The jitterbug. The jitterbug was a real popular dance back in the 30s and the 40s, and they actually used an animated jitterbug. They actually animated a little pink and blue bug that would sting Dorothy and her friends and cause them to dance. And in doing so, it would wear them out so that they would have no fight left in them. Now here's another fact. When you see the ending credits, you're going to see someone named Mr. Walsh, Emmett Walsh I think it is, and he plays the role of Nico. Nico is the king of the winged monkeys, and that is him right there. He also does something that's a callback to the books. When you see him, at some point he's going to hand the Wicked Witch a gold piece of cloth. It's actually a cap. This is the golden cap. And in the books, the witch has 3 wishes to command the winged monkeys. And by using that cap, she commands their obedience for 3 different wishes. So that was a little callback to the books. Another song that was cut out was a reprise of Dorothy's "Somewhere Over the Rainbow," "I'm Staring at Him," and "Ding Dong, the Witch is Dead." And there's a couple of different things that she sings about as she cries. And it was a very sad time, and the directors felt that, and this was Victor Fleming by now that was directing, they felt that, this took away from they didn't want the sadness, but they wanted the terror, because they were going for the terror of her impending doom with the witch wanting to destroy her for the shoes. Now you'll notice there's a broom there. Well, when this scene finished and the Wicked Witch had melted, the Winky guards kneeled down, picked up, and gave it to Dorothy and said, "Take it with you." As soon as he does that, watch the mouths of the Winky guards, and you'll see the mouths moving. They're actually singing, and they're singing, "Ding dong, the witch is dead, witch old witch, the Wicked Witch." But they cut that out because they had to cut time out of the film. The scene actually shifts over to Emerald City, where the Emerald city citizens are also singing "Ding Dong, the Witch is Dead," because they now know that they're free from evil. But that was cut out. There was another song that was cut out. So we've cut out 3 whole songs just to bring the time down, to a manageable length. Because somehow in the 1930s, 2 hours was way too long. Heck, we'll sit through 4-hour movies now, but not in the 30s. You just didn't do that. Ah, those ruby slippers. We all love the ruby slippers, don't we? They're absolutely magnificent. But in the books, they're silver. They are called the silver slippers. But the reason that MGM went with ruby was to show off all the color that they were trying to promote with the Technicolor process. And in fact, you'll notice the ones down below have kind of a flipped up lip to them. This is called Arabian style shoes. And initially, Victor Fleming and Richard Thorpe had thought they would use this style of shoe, the Arabian shoes. But they were hard to work with. They were hard to dance in. They were hard to move about in. And so we went with these. And these are actually the pair that were recovered last year. These shoes have been lost and after being stolen for many years. And now they're doing just fine. you had fun with this, but what most people don't realize is the sparks that are rising from the ruby slippers is actually apple juice that's been squirted up towards Dorothy's fingers, and then they sped up the film to make it look a lot faster and added a little bit of glow to it. So that's actually apple juice she's being sprayed with. And the Tin Woodman, they tried using oil, but it turns out oil didn't photograph very well, and it didn't stick on his skin, so that's chocolate syrup. So the Tin Woodman is trying Hershey's chocolate syrup. What a nice set of tears, huh? Filmed here in the forest and meeting the Cowardly Lion. The problem was Dorothy had to slap the Cowardly Lion in the nose to calm him down. She couldn't do it. She kept giggling. And so what did Victor Fleming do? He took her off to the side. He smacked her once right upside the face. That got her attention. Now film the scene. She went back, nailed it in one take. So, it doesn't pay to anger your director. And here's something that we would never do today. That snow that you see there is unusual weather we're having, isn't it? Well, it's because it's asbestos. That is asbestos powder. I'm surprised none of them got cancer from that because it causes lung cancer. Really something else. But at the time, that's what they used because they didn't know any better. Although in the books, they actually did fall asleep in the field of poppies, but Glinda made it snow with the asbestos snow there. Actually, in the books, it was the Queen of the Field Mice and her little micey subjects that helped save the Cowardly Lion. Now imagine that, a bunch of mice saving a big cat. Is that not unusual? But of course, in 1939, how are you going to get a bunch of mice to pull a cat? So they went with that. These are collie dogs. You've heard of them. They have the body of a bear, the head of a tiger, and claws as sharp as a lion's. Lions, tigers, and bears. Thank you. This is how a different color. It's actually the horse of a different Jello because the color they use is Jello. The only problem is horses really like Jello and they kept licking it off, so you had to film that thing quick before he started licking away. Now, I mentioned 4 directors: Norman Taurog, Richard Thorpe, Victor Fleming. Well, when Victor Fleming time came, he had to go and direct the Gone with the Wind, for which he won the Best Picture Award. It was up against The Wizard of Oz. So King Vidor came in and he did all the Kansas stuff. So the Kansas stuff you see in the beginning actually came at the end. And the tornado you see there is actually a 35-foot long tube of chicken wire wrapped around with muslin, gray muslin, and then ran through a little, there's a little slot in the floor there that's kind of crooked, and they would pull it through and spin it at the same time, blow up a little dust at the base, and they made a beautiful tornado. They didn't have CGI, they did not have computers. That's how they had to do it. And yet, let me tell you, it's a frightening tornado, isn't it? Very frightening indeed. Now, remember those silver slippers? When you see the Wicked Witch of the East show up in the tornado, check her way on just as she appears and look at her feet, and you will see that she is wearing silver slippers. Everybody talks about the Hanging Munchkin. Everyone talks about it. And no, Munchkin did not hang himself during the movie. The reason this came along is because of television. Back in the late 50s, The Wizard of Oz started showing every year on television. Well, back then, TV screens were, 12 to 14 inches big. They weren't that big. And so you really couldn't see the detail you're going to see today. If you'll look in the back there, you'll start to see a shape. There it is there. It's actually a giant egret, a large bird, like a crane. And when you watch, you will see it actually spread its wings and kind of, stretch out. And that is what was there, because the movie studio had actually contracted the LA Zoo to bring in some animals. You'll actually see it when the Tin Woodman gets unfrozen, so to speak, and he starts to bounce off and go off on his dance. Look at the cabin where he lives, and you will see the bird in the background. He then ends up in the back there, and you can see him start to spread his wings there. That is the Hanging Munchkin, and it is not a Hanging Munchkin. Trust me, back then, if something like that had happened, we'd know about it. It's only brought about by the advent of television. And so, the nice thing about the big screen is you get to see it. Now we're going to backtrack just a little as I end my presentation and take us out of the land of Oz away from the deadly desert, from the Nonestic Ocean, the dominion of the No King, to our work. We carry on the tradition of Oz. My wife and I, we write books. Our books are kid-friendly. We do not use foul language. We do not use adult situations. We believe in the vision of L. Frank Baum and the Wizard of Oz. Our books promote love and joy, truth, honor, family, friendship. These are the values we want to teach. We teach our children, we teach our grandchildren. The Emerald Slippers of Oz actually has an introduction written by Roger Pound, the great-grandson of L. Frank Pound. We're the only authors he's ever done that for. Because
Well, travelers, that's about it here for me. Here in Ione Township, right here with the Wizard of Oz Festival. It's great fun, you know. You got to see the movie on the big screen. I've never seen Wizard of Oz on the big screen. And all those people in costume and all that. Great fun. Seeing Jonah and Jude, that was so surprising there. And I saw another YouTuber that I've met up before, is Ed Adventures. He lives right here in Ionia. Great place, you know. This is going on all weekend, so you know, I'm sure they'll do this again next year. So keep an eye open for it. You know, I might come back to it next year. So if you like this, hit that like button, share, subscribe. Any comments for me? Any comments appreciated. Any ideas for me to do? Let me know. Just might show up and do it. So until next time, my fellow travelers, I'll see you around the mid.